Hey everyone, Tanner over at CMG. Today we want to go over interest and how to get rid of as much interest cost as possible for you to be able to plan on having your future finances look even better than the average American. So what we're going to jump into here is actual examples of interest costs for having a mortgage and just basic examples of how to reduce that interest cost. We went through the all-in-one loan in a different video. So if you are just jumping into this conversation, make sure you do go back to that all-in-one loan example, because by far the best program that you can go with is going to be that all-in-one loan if you want to focus on decreasing the amount of interest costs that you have. But what if we can't qualify for that right now, or it's not the perfect fit right now? What about just saving money on our normal mortgage? So what I did here is I showed you some, or I have some examples pulled up of just somebody buying a $350,000 property. They start out by putting 5% down. And for the interest rate, I wanted us to use a longer term example. Obviously, if you buy a house right now, the likelihood is you're just going to be refinancing in the next couple of years down to a lower interest rate. So what I want to show is our long-term costs, not just current short-term costs. So I put, what if you have an average interest rate over the next 30 years of about 5.25, and you continually use the equity that you build in this property to put down on new purchases and stuff like that. So we're working with the same approximate mortgage amount over your lifetime, average interest rate of about 5.25, which, should be hopefully relatively good example. And then obviously starting in this example with a little bit of mortgage insurance, which you can see over here on the left, using a 30-year mortgage term, which is the standard. And then I plugged in some example property taxes and insurance to show those expenses as well. So all in all, if you average that loan balance through your time frames of owning a property, and you average that interest rate and taxes and insurance and everything get included in, that would average a payment of about $2,358 in the beginning, or closer to the beginning. This does include mortgage insurance. So if you are using a conventional loan, remember that mortgage insurance payment, which we're showing right here as an example, in this example, about $113 a month. Once you build 20% equity in that property, you're not going to have that mortgage insurance payment any longer. So this does fall off, your payment goes down, but we're going to use that as a starting point, and then obviously that'll fall off over time. So in this example, I wanted to show you, if you did this 5% down, average interest rate, average loan amount example, you can see here your principal and down payment and everything over time would combine to pay off that mortgage. But if you did nothing and only paid your minimum payment, you would pay $328,000 in mortgage interest over that 30-year period. If you just paid the minimum monthly payments, you pay $328,000. You'd also have, in this example, based on estimating taxes and insurance and that stuff over the time frame, another $160,000. But that's just going to happen with owning a property. You'll have utilities, or not utilities, taxes and insurance and stuff that you just are going to have to cover. But the big piece here is interest. So over that 30-year period, you bought a $350,000 house, you're paying $328,000 in interest. So how the heck do we decrease that expense? Because that's a huge expense. Imagine if you didn't have to pay $328,000 of interest, what you could do with that money otherwise. So the first thing, obviously, like I mentioned in our previous video, the all-in-one loan can severely help you decrease that amount of cost. But let's say we're just getting started, can't use that program initially. So what's our alternatives? Well, we have two alternatives that we can do. They both include paying extra money on a monthly basis to reduce our costs. But let's say we just looked at the two different options, right? One option would be you could do extra monthly payments. So instead of paying the $2,300 in that example, let's say you paid $2,550, so an extra $200 a month, which is what I'm showing up here on the left. If you can budget for that pretty comfortably, what would that do? The second option is you can do what's called a bi-weekly payment plan. Now, this can be kind of a pain in the butt to set up. So just throwing that out there, my preference is just paying a little bit extra monthly, But if you want to, you could look at doing this bi-weekly payment plan. All it really does is it makes it so that you make an extra payment a year equivalent towards your mortgage. So that extra payment goes directly to principal instead of interest costs, helps reduce your balance faster, reduce your interest cost faster. I also plugged in just an example of $200 a month. What if we plugged that in for the lifetime of the setup? So let's go down. In this example, if you did the extra $200 a month, that'd be about $57,000 over the 30 years of extra principal payments that you paid to reduce your balance further. So let's go to the bottom here and take a peek at those two directions. So your top example is just your monthly payment, right? Take you 30 years to pay off that mortgage. If you did the bi-weekly payment plan, so again, equivalent of an extra month of payments a year, that would be 26 payments a year that you structure. They'd be $1,158 each. That would be a total savings of about $62,000 in interest that you would save over that 30-year period. So 62,000 just by doing that bi-weekly payment plan, of pretty much equivalent of paying an extra month of payment a year. That would also drop your time frame down to 25 years instead of 30 years that you'd have a mortgage. So obviously can be pretty dang helpful. With monthly payments, if you did that $200 a month that I was showing, again, your monthly payment would be $2,558 instead of bi-weekly payments of $1,158. That would be, again, $57,000 extra that you pay in just the life of you having that mortgage. But that would save you $76,000 in total savings just by paying that extra $200 a month. You don't have to set up a bi-weekly payment plan. You don't have to do anything like that. If you have a month where you don't have that extra $200, you can always not pay that, right? But in this example, just $200 a month extra, that would save you $76,000 in interest costs. And it would help you pay off that mortgage in 24 years instead of 30 years. So obviously extremely helpful just by making these little extra payments. We're talking about pretty substantial savings, right? So what if you did extra? What if you did $500 a month or something? Now, this is obviously going to depend on your comfort level, your budget, so on and so forth. But let's say you did that as an example. How much extra would that save you in interest costs? We scroll back down, you can see here, $500 extra a month towards your mortgage over on a 30-year mortgage in this example specific, obviously. So this will change based on you. But in this example, that would save you $139,000 in interest costs over that. Well, in this example, it would drop it down to a 19-year payoff instead of a 30-year. So in that 19-year period, you'd also save $139,000. So obviously, your financial plan is going to determine how you use your money, investing money, paying off debt, so on and so forth. But hopefully this is helpful to give you some ideas on saving yourself money. I mean, if you did this example, that's a guaranteed $139,000 that you would save, that you could put towards something else in the future. So just throwing out ideas of different ways to help in our total financial discussions. If you have any questions on it, let me know, and we'll talk to you later.